And we are live. It is Thursday and it is 1 o'clock, which means it's time for a 30 with Karen and Justin. And today we're joined by Taylor Smeenk, founder and CEO of Empact Wellness. Taylor's a chiropractor and certified functional medicine practitioner. We need to talk about that. Who is passionate about helping people get to the root cause of their health challenges rather than simply treating symptoms, which is something we've heard a lot about in the news recently. What started as a mission to serve the Burlington community has grown into a vision for transforming healthcare through more personalized, proactive, and whole person care. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Amazing. So let's start at the beginning.
Yeah.
Young little Taylor is looking at a career and a future. What leads you into healthcare?
Yeah. So I was very active as a kid. I played a lot of sports, and I had 7 concussions along with
Oh,
other physical injuries.
now
So,
what sport gave you those concussions? That would be an interesting.
yeah, hockey, soccer, and then snowboarding were the
Mm,
concussions.
that'll do it.
Yeah. Yeah, so chiropractic, physiotherapy, rehab was a huge part of my upbringing. I
Sure.
also have family members, brother, sister, mom with physical disabilities. So we were always taking care of our physical body, right? In
Mm,
those appointments. And that's what kind of led me in there. Now, my education, twisted and turned a little bit. My bachelor's degree was in neuroscience. I've always been really interested in the brain. I thought I
mm,
might work with like stroke patients, for example. And then after university, I took a couple years off and ended up managing a sports medicine clinic. So that's where I was introduced to chiropractors who are more sports specific, who spend 30 minutes plus with their patients, acupuncture, and then even found functional medicine. And at the time, that's when I had my sixth or seventh concussion, and my health started taking a really big downturn. And so it was really functional medicine that was transformative for me personally. So I was like then in chiropractic school and had already decided like I was going to go the functional medicine route.
So tell me about that. So, because it's a big term. Like it's a
Yeah.
very you know what I mean, and it seems a bit like uh run of like you hear these terms and you're like, oh, it's just another one of those.
Mm,
But this one seems to really get a lot of attention right now.
yeah.
It just seems to be big in the news and people talk about it a lot. Tell me a little bit about what is functional medicine? What does that mean?
So, functional medicine is designed to ask why your symptoms are happening and treat at that root cause level. So, we're not doing any, well, yes, symptom management in the sense that I want you to feel better right
Mhm.
away as soon as possible, but I'm not just being like, oh, you have a rash, so we need to treat the rash. It's like, well, okay, you have a rash, so why do you have a rash? And really, all of our work is on the gut, the liver, like the drainage pathways that are affecting
Mhm.
why that rash would develop in the first place. So, certified functional medicine practitioner, in order to achieve that level, you have to already hold and have completed a regulated healthcare designation. So, a medical doctor, a doctor of chiropractic, a doctor of osteopathy in the States, dentists can do it, and nurse practitioners can do it. And so that's how you can achieve the certified functional medicine. I think like a lot of the online buzz is because there's so many functional health coaches these days. And you know, I, yeah. That helps.
Coaches versus actual practitioners.
Yeah, I mean, there is a huge difference, right? Like it's a completely different level of certification and understanding of the body.
Well, and here's my biggest frustration with the industry as a whole, right? There's a lot of people spreading information that relates to whatever it relates to that turns out, well, hey, guess what? My product sorts out that problem. And
Yes.
it's like, well, wait a second. Is that even real in the first place? And then when you dig a little deeper, you find that there's conflicting information on both sides. So
Mhm.
how do you understand what's true? And it's very difficult to follow, you know, when you have so many fire hoses spraying information at you in this world today.
Yeah.
It's difficult to figure out what works for you. How do you help your patients kind of work through that?
One of the biggest things I say is like anybody who's telling you that this one thing is going to solve your problem has no idea what they're talking about. They're just a good business person with some kind of fancy title attached to them. And I
Right.
see it all the time too, right? Like I'm in all these functional medicine practitioner groups, and the other day I see this post like, hey, anyone have suggestions on a supplement that can help increase testosterone with not limiting estrogen? And it's like, well, the whole system works together. Like you have to understand there's no one product that's going to do that.
Right.
Right? And if like that's the problem with the patient and that's a functional practitioner or like a coach, right? And that's kind of the issue with the wellness industry too. It's like you're still putting a pill for the ill. It just is a natural pill instead of a pharmaceutical one.
So, and then there's the other issue. So you've got people on one side of the argument saying, doctors are they're educated, they understand things, and this is the path it's science,
Mhm.
you know. And then you've got the other side of the coin where people are saying, well, they're paid by big pharma and therefore we shouldn't trust them. We should trust these people over here. But these people over here also make billions of dollars,
Yeah.
right? Because this industry over here is also money driven,
Oh yeah.
right? And so it's very difficult to wade through that mess on either side of that coin right now,
Yeah.
right?
Um,
I find that, and this is just my experience with it, and maybe you can add to this a little. Doing your own research to figure out what works and feels good for you is the most important thing, but also finding someone like a Taylor or some other, like I have a Dr. Peter that's kind of similar to you, or other people that are in this industry that you trust and that can actually help you and that have the real credentials that you need to do what you do. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I think you said something really important that I live and breathe by, which is the only person who knows the answer is you. And I think
Mm,
like teaching people to reconnect to themselves and to actually build trust with themselves is such an integral and important part of the work that I do because sometimes like people will say, "Oh, do you think like we'll be working through a protocol for example and they'll say, "Oh, should I increase the dose on this?" And my answer, depending on the person, sometimes is how does that feel for your body? Does your body feel ready to accept more of that, or do you feel like you need different support? So it's more of a conversation. And of course, I have that education and that knowledge to, physiologically know and like medically know what the person might need. But
mm.
then to build that trust and to help encourage building that trust for that person and themselves, I think is imperative when you're working on really healing.
So what are some of the most common things that are popping up today that you're seeing all the time?
Certainly perimenopause and hormone,
Mm.
right?
Okay, we can dive into that huge because I've just
Yeah.
been through this with my wife. This is incredible. Yeah, that's a big one right now.
It's a big one. I would say there's two sides of the coin though, right? There's um like men are really struggling at the same time and we're seeing
Mm.
like a lot of men reaching for testosterone supplementation, which like you guys produce testosterone your whole lives. Like women actually our hormones just completely plummet, right? um so I think hormone health just as like an all-encompassing picture, it is something that's really prevalent. Um, Another thing that I see really commonly is people coming to me saying, like, they told me I need my gallbladder out. Do I actually need, like, do I have to get my gallbladder out? Right. We live in an increasingly toxic world, and the liver processes everything that we interact with. And the gallbladder is that secondary organ there that kind of gets the brunt of that load. And then gut health issues. So, IBD like Crohn's and colitis, but also there's just a ton of IBS that is not understood well by the medical doctors. Like, you're not at the level of disease, but like your gut is like a complete mess, and I see that all the time.
Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot. I
Okay.
take iron supplements.
Yeah.
So my protocol is I'm giving it right here. This is live
Okay.
and everyone
Yeah.
can hear it. A lot of people hear my story anyway. I've heard my story anyway. So I take testosterone.
Yeah.
Testosterone increases my hemoglobin.
Yeah.
So then I go and I donate blood every 2 months on purpose to reduce my hemoglobin.
Mhm.
So far that worked well. I'm loving that. It's great. The other part of that, though, by giving blood so often, my iron levels plummet.
Right.
So now I'm on iron supplements. But the biggest thing I'm finding with these iron supplements is they're not really sitting well in my stomach.
Hmm.
So how I'm kind of like having you on here to pick your brain.
Yeah.
How do we how would you suggest I and you don't have to give me a diagnosis. I'm not asking for that. But what can I do to help with that?
Yeah, so I'll explain that pathway in the body, maybe to help, right? So,
Sure.
in order for iron to be activated and absorbed, it requires acid and it requires vitamin C. So, most iron supplements, especially good quality ones, are paired with vitamin C already. But if they're not, you definitely need to be taking iron with vitamin C or like fruit, orange juice, something like that. Um, the root cause of that entire pathway, including your testosterone, is a dysregulated nervous system, right? So when we are stuck in like constant stress, fight or flight, we're on the go all the time, life is really busy, our mind doesn't shut off, like you're just doing so many things in every avenue. Our nervous system can get dysregulated. And
Hmm.
so what's happening then is your vagus nerve is what controls that rest and digest parasympathetic function. And so if you are eating in a stressed out state all the time, you're like, okay, I'm eating breakfast and then I'm like rushing to this thing and I'm like eating lunch on the go and like maybe you're sitting down for dinner with your family. You're not getting those signals for
Mm.
your stomach to release acid as you're chewing your food. Then, if the acid doesn't get released, it's not sending the next signal to the gallbladder to release bile, to the pancreas to release those digestive enzymes. And then you're also limiting the motility through your entire digestive tract. And, when all of that happens, inflammation builds, chronic stress, now your hormones are dysregulated, right? Like your cortisol axis is off, which is going to throw your testosterone levels off. And do you see why it's like a much
Mm.
more complicated picture than that?
Well, it's the whole game that we used to, the song we used to sing, the head bones connected,
Yeah,
everything's connected and it all kind of works together, right?
yeah,
That's very interesting. Very interesting. So, with relation, let's flip back to the perimenopausal thing because I know this
yeah,
will be a very popular topic.
yeah.
I think one of the biggest problems we have with it is, when I went to go deal with my testosterone stuff, my doctor was like, "Cool, we got a guy. Here he goes. Boom, done. Everything's great." And I got dealt with, and I was it is what it was. Granted, it took a while because of our system being a little bit slow, but we got there and we got it down in the end. For my wife, going through the process of understanding a little bit more, I mean, it's so vague. Everything is so, there's not a lot of, it seems like we're right on the precipice of what could be the beginning of people really truly putting time and effort into this,
Mhm.
right? Because there have been people that have actually said to my wife, "Oh, it's just normal. You'll be fine. Just deal with it. You'll be fine," that kind of thing.
Yep.
And it's like, but that's not, why should we have to suffer? Why should she have to suffer so badly?
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
so is this something that's really starting to come to the forefront to help to sort of people to get help for this?
Absolutely. I think to shed a little bit of like history light on this,
Sure.
pretty much none of the medical studies are done on women because our hormones are like fluctuate on a monthly cycle and there's so
Right.
many nuances with it, right?
Right.
So women's health overall in perimenopause really hasn't been studied well up until recently. Now they're doing
Mhm.
like lots of studies and the medical community is taking a much more poignant interest in it, which I think is
Right.
really needed and important. So I think that we're going to start to see a lot more doctors and medical professionals taking an interest in this area and really giving it the time and attention it deserves because each like not every woman has the same experience through
Yeah.
perimenopause either, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
there are so many nuances. There's so many like testosterone is one hormone. Women have like so many other hormones and like estrogen itself there's like three subcategories of estrogen metabolites and then those each have sub metabolites under them. Like it's an incredibly more complex system.
Right.
Yeah.
And how does that look? So I've also heard more recently, like in the last let's say 6 or 8 months, that testosterone is a thing that women really should probably start taking as well now,
Yeah.
which is an interesting sort of jive to the other direction, because I think a lot of women are actually afraid of doing that. I
Yeah.
don't want too much hair. I don't want huge muscles. I don't want whatever.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't seem to be the, like, I mean, prescribed correctly,
Yes.
that's not a thing, right?
Yeah, so there's what like testosterone and estrogen actually convert back and forth to each
Oh,
other. And there's
interesting.
one enzyme that makes this conversion. It's called aromatase. And so, like men also have estrogen,
Yeah.
right? And you need to have proper estrogen clearance. And then, women have testosterone and that pathway needs to be supported. So again, there's one of those nuances that's like we need to see blood work. Potentially we need to see some more comprehensive testing like a Dutch test to really understand the full breadth of that individual's hormonal fluctuations and cycle. There's so many other factors, right? Like I'm sure you've heard of methylation, or if you have like the MTHFR genetic mutation, methylation is what converts our hormones. And so if you don't methylate well, then you're going to have a backup and accumulation of inflammatory estrogens, which then gives you more of those perimenopausal symptoms. Yeah,
There's a lot.
there's a lot. Yeah.
So I think it's like, I think this is my point, is that I think, our grandmothers and even some of our mothers at our age, at my age anyway, you're a lot younger than I am, but that have told our, our daughters and our sisters and our things like that, like, nah, I think there's a way around it now. There's a way to get to feel better,
Yeah.
because
Oh, yeah.
I think what's interesting about, and I'm going to get into it a little bit here. What's interesting about hormonal health on both sides, for men and for women, is it can be disguised as relationship killer
Yep.
in a lot of ways, because there's sexual health things that deal with this, that,
Yep.
the connection that couples have, that can really destroy relationships, not just health, but like the outward relationships we have with other human beings, whether it's sexual or otherwise, because your mindset, your brain is functioning not at full capacity at this point, when you're not fully, working at 100%. And, even your relationships with friends and family and stuff. I mean, it's so intricate and interesting to me.
Yeah, and it
Um,
really affects like your mood and to your
yes,
point,
yeah.
our relationships, like having human, like really loving human relationships is an essential part for health. Like
Mhm.
you cannot achieve optimal health. Loneliness is actually a red flag when we do medical histories, right?
Really,
Yeah.
that's very interesting.
Mhm.
That's very interesting. So, okay. So let's talk a little bit about, you know, people struggling to get answers. And that's my biggest thing. I feel like there's a bit of a block where our healthcare system is set up to kind of just drag you along a little bit here. And I feel like if I came to you, I would be getting functional advice and answers fairly quickly from the things that you do, if I'm not mistaken.
For sure.
Yeah. So how does that process look? Because typically we're, you know, referred out to 15 different people that take 6 or 8 or 12 months to do the work. Is
Yeah.
it a similar process with you, or how does that, like, because I know obviously the Ontario health system is what it is.
Yeah.
How much of that is in house for you to be able to care for people?
So everything is in house. That's why I built my clinic to be the way it is,
Mhm.
because I lived that experience, right? So part of my story is like after those 7 concussions, I was diagnosed with stage 1 cancer. Then I had a ton of hormonal issues myself. I,
Wow.
had really awful IBS and like gut health issues, and I was bounced around the system, not being helped. So in those interim periods where I was waiting for referrals, I was seeking out functional medicine practitioners and like other integrative specialists.
Hmm.
And I didn't go forward with any of those medical referrals because I healed myself outside of the system completely. And that's why I built my clinic to be the way it is, because I don't want other people to have to suffer through and like fall through the gaps of the system. I will say, like, our medical system is fantastic for acute problems, right?
Mhm,
Like, and
mhm.
that's what they're designed for. Unfortunately, even the medical education, they don't, they get like 20 hours of nutrition over 4 years, right? Like, they just don't learn the preventative strategies and the chronic disease management. They really do, they're treating chronic problems with acute solutions, is the problem in the healthcare
Right. Yeah,
system,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
So it's like I don't like to shit on them all that much, even
yeah.
though it's like it is so frustrating, and like I've personally experienced it, and have had many of my loved ones experience it. But that's again why I built Impact Wellness to be the clinic that it is.
So Impact also has, you have your chiropractic, obviously.
Yep.
Your tell me some of the list. Like, give me the list of some of the things that you're doing there now.
Yeah, so we have the physical health would be like your chiropractic, massage therapy. We have a red light therapy bed as well. I have naturopathic medicine who also does facial acupuncture and hypnotherapy. I have a nurse on staff who does IV therapy, vitamin injections, like iron infusions, for example. And then we have the mental and emotional health component. So integrative speech language pathology, psychotherapy, vibrational healing.
It's so, here's the other interesting part that you're hitting on right there, which is another thing that's been sort of pushed under the rug for so many years, is that mental health side of things,
Big time.
especially in sports. It's interesting because coming through the hockey world with my son, we've just now started to hit on a couple of things where some of these teams that we're looking at are offering mental health coaches.
Mm.
And so we're looking at some stuff, and it's funny because I was talking to him the other day, and he watched Ted Lasso.
I
uh
love Ted Lasso.
who doesn't love Ted
Yeah.
Lasso? You're a troll under a bridge if you don't like Ted Lasso. I mean, come on. And so, but there's a character in the show that is a mental health expert that works with all the players and the coaching staff.
Mhm.
And I said to Ethan, I said, that this is your Ted Lasso moment with the person here that would do this for you. And it's really quite cool because, you know, um, I think so many times we hear horror stories of, oh, we just didn't realize that this person had this issue,
Yeah.
and I think now more than ever, we're starting to really bring this issue to the forefront to speak about it more. I've been through my challenges.
Mhm.
I've sort of made it a little public and talked about it in my day to day. But at the end of the day, I think what we're trying to avoid is, I think especially in sports where, and male dominated sports, but I don't know what it's like in the female side because I haven't been in it. But it's like you have to like just take the hit and move on, like suck it up and just keep going. Like, and that's kind of the aesthetic or the mindset of sports.
Yeah.
And the reality is like everything that happens from here down happens because of this, right?
Mhm.
And if this isn't healthy, this ain't gonna work.
Yeah.
So how did you come back from 7 concussions and still have a functional life?
Yeah, so again, that was like the functional medicine. That was my first introduction to it, and like really fantastic chiropractors.
Mm.
Concussions, essentially what a concussion is, it's an energy deficit in the brain. So you get this hit initially, your brain recognizes that it's been hit. So you get this huge glucose spike, like a sugar spike in the brain itself, and then it goes into a complete drop, and you get like your refractory period, and that's where your concussion lives because your brain is taking time to recover and to heal from that energy drop. And that's why
Right.
like the second hit syndrome is so deadly, right? Because if you get hit again and you're still in that underneath state, the
Yes.
brain just can't come back from it sometimes. And so, that's what, when that happens, your immune system also drops. Like your whole body kind of goes into this recovery mode. And yeah, it was a lot of, physical therapy and training. Like part of my concussions was whiplash. So like a lot of neck, cervical
Right.
spine
Right.
work, as well as visual. I had awful vertigo. So like jaw, eyes, that entire system. And then the gut, right? So, like you said, everything that happens below is because of this. Like I would actually argue that and say that everything happens is because of the gut,
Interesting.
right? Because the gut is actually where like the majority of your neurotransmitters are made. Like the majority of serotonin is made in your gut and it's transported back upwards. So the gut brain axis is imperative. And when we have things like concussions happen, again, even your immune system primarily is housed in your gut. And so when you have this trauma to the brain, your gut also responds and like that affects then every other system from there. And so for me, it was rebuilding like all of those
Mm.
foundations and really dedicated time. I will say too, it was like, it wasn't like 7 concussions in a small period of time. It was like 3 in that short period of time in my like early 20s. But that was after already having 4. So
Is there a potential for someone to have a concussion and have no idea? Is that a thing?
yeah,
Or
I
would
would
you
say
basically
so.
always have symptoms?
I mean, I think that this is where I think it's so important for sports teams to have those mental health counselors, right? Because I think a lot of kids or people are like scared to admit because they don't want to
Mm,
let their team down. Or if you're in the workplace, you don't want to let like your coworkers down.
yeah.
You don't want to let your family down, your friends, etc. And so I think a lot of times it's like, oh, well, yeah, I've been feeling a little foggy and like headachy, but I'm fine. And I think that's where people get in trouble.
And longer term, if you've had some concussions earlier in life or a concussion of any kind, is that potential to have sort of tightness, pain, jaw later in life? Like is it all connected somehow or
I mean, the short answer is yes, but again, I think if you address it appropriately from the very
right?
beginning, then you're okay. Like, I just went skydiving last week, and my mom was like, "Are you sure you should do this? Like, isn't that a lot of G-force?" And I was totally fine.
Yeah, you just have to be a little more careful after the fact. It's funny because, I wish I could remember the guy's name. He was a presenter on TSN for the CFL. He was a quarterback in the CFL, and he's adamant he would never let his kids play football.
Right.
He's like, it's just too much. It's like
Yeah.
the potential for brain damage is too much.
So
And
that's where, yeah, it's like those are those like minor hits. Like think about it like a bruise, right? Like if you just like poke yourself
yeah,
every day,
yeah,
you might not see a bruise, but that tissue is getting a little bit of traumatic damage every day, right?
right,
That's where
right.
sports like football, I think,
Hockey, things like
yeah,
that. Yeah.
exactly. Because there's just like so many minor insults that don't present with symptoms. You don't actually
Got it.
have a concussion, but you're just getting those like little traumatic hits over and over again repeatedly,
Mm.
which in the end does lead to problems.
Yeah, it's actually devastating as long term, like when you think about it, and yet we still do all these things, right? And I think the world is getting more wise to this stuff, which is great, and I think more protection is available, which is amazing. But I mean, hey, brain health is one of the most important things, and I
Absolutely.
appreciate your sentiment about the gut. But if your brain doesn't work, the rest of your
Oh,
world,
yeah. Of
yeah.
course. Of
And I
course.
know what you're saying about the nervous system and all the things coming from the gut, so I get that. But I'm not discounting that. You're the professional, so I'll lean on you. But
No, it's all good. We're saying the
yeah,
same thing in a different way.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, but no, this has been amazing. You are super intelligent and wonderful to talk to, and you've brought a lot of information. So, listen, I would suggest this: if anybody has any questions about this, do you have any intro consultations that you do? Like you have an hour consultation to start, or how do you do that?
Yep. So typically I do an hour consultation to start. If there are questions, like, a lot of people who have maybe worked with so many practitioners and are weary, I do offer a discovery call, like a 15-minute sort of meet and greet.
Cool.
But yeah, in general, an hour consult to get going, and then we go from there.
Perfect. So if anybody's dealing with any of this stuff that we've just talked about, or has, even had a loved one or a family member that's had concussions or having problems or anything that relates to your functional health, you should probably be getting in touch with Taylor here. And what we're going to do is put all the details below in the chat, and you can click on those links and just I'm sure you have an online booking form and such like that, as
Yeah,
most people do nowadays.
definitely.
So we'll put all that stuff down there and we'll get it in there. Andrea will do that. She's wonderful upstairs sorting that stuff out for us. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on. You're just such a wealth of information, and I appreciate that. It's been a good chat. So
Yeah.
thanks for listening. We will be back next week. I promise you that. And hey, everyone, have a good day. Bye.
Bye.